welcome to the Face Downs, your source for TCG news and all things Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm your host, Lucas.
I'm Ruben.
And I'm Joe.
Hello. Welcome back, everybody. How's everyone doing? Is everyone having a good week?
Yeah, not too bad. Just came off another big hobby league at Harvey. We had 14 players.
Amazing.
Yeah, and a new player, well, a player who hadn't won a hobby league before took it out, and he pulled the ulti and got the BODE map because we didn't do the pre-release the week before because of the stock delay. So he had a good day.
What were they playing?
He was playing Numeron Mystic Mine with like Mega Clops.
And you know what? What better way to
God.
win a hobby league at Palmy than play Mystic Mine Numeron?
So what you're saying is he had to do an actual villain arc
Yeah.
to win a hobby league.
And a lot of people just forgot to put like outs to those sorts of cards in their side for some
I
reason.
mean, I've done
So,
it too.
like,
I've played Mystic Mine. It's a good
Yeah.
deck. And Numeron's like a pretty fun spin on it because there's actually a win condition that isn't just mill.
Yeah, and he spent most of the day just like summoning a Mega Clops, and that was it. And he would win. Yeah, it was
Mad
cool.
respect.
Yeah, at this hobby league, did you see any? Obviously, we're just at the release of a couple of some pretty impactful sets. We've had Synchro Storm, we've had Burst of Destiny. It's now out for release. Did you see anything getting represented at Hobby League?
Not yet. A few of the guys are starting to look at these decks.
Okay.
I think Fluunderies is the one that most of them are looking for, just because it's more budget friendly. But yeah, no, we're seeing not anything yet. But I feel like in the next few weeks, the players will probably start picking these sorts of things up. I know elsewhere, other people probably already have. But yeah.
And have you picked up anything Burst of Destiny?
I have. I went off the B Troopers after the support that they got given.
We sprayed our eradicating aerosol.
Yeah, they're gone.
Bit of raid on those assholes.
Yeah. And now I have purchased myself a Fluunderies and Sword Soul base. So I have both of those decks ready to go, and I'm pretty excited actually. And a DPE and a Baron, of course. So
you just bought everything good.
yeah. I just had a bit of a splash out. I was like, I'm really feeling the BODE format. So
good card. What if I just bought every good card? That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And we're the same. We've picked up, I think, most of Burst of Destiny now. I am 2 Starlight Stratos deep. This is a cry for help.
Get the first.
Yeah, a cry for help. If you have a third Starlight Stratos, please.
Yeah,
feel
by
free
cry
to
for help, I mean
contact us.
sell me your Starlights. Definitely. Oh, Jesus Christ. But BODE has been interesting and partially induced a bit of fatigue in me. Because I went an entire format with Tri-Brigade, got really tired of linear, one game plan decks, and then had to just watch Sword Soul be good. And I'm just so willing for it to not be good, but it definitely is. And I kind of felt a bit fatigued by, can we play a deck that isn't just 20 hand traps and a discrete engine, please?
Can you come up with something else?
Yeah, I miss, crazy combo decks. I do.
But I'm with you there. But yeah.
But Fluunder's a good remedy. Fluunder's silly and does all the stupid crap that I like.
It's new. It's different. It's a new take on a really underutilized mechanic, that being the normal summon. And it looks good and it does what it does really well. Yeah. So why not? It's and like you said, Joe, it's really budget. Okay, let's ignore Mega Riser.
Even that's not terrible.
Else, yeah,
it's like $40.
Yeah, everything else is all in the set. Gold Sarks are next to nothing. A lot of your good staples. We just saw dualities get reprinted in King's Court. So
Extravagance coming in gold as well.
Yeah, well, prosperities aren't there. So
as someone who listen, I played this deck last night and I prosperitied into literally nothing for 6. So I'm starting to feel like Extravagance is probably just the better card.
Yeah,
I'm playing the build with Extravagance at the moment. And like, there's always been that thing between Extravagance and and the Prosperity. Obviously, you get the choice for Prosperity, which in theory makes it a bit better in that sort of deck because you need to get to your Robin. But at the same time, drawing 2 in that deck and like getting a field spell on like one of the other birds isn't too bad in itself. So
the issue I found was sometimes you're Prosperitying and the deck is a 2-card combo deck. So Prosperity just can never draw you into both pieces if you're missing like I drew like double Dark Ruler, double Book of Moon Prosperity, and I'm like, I don't think anything except Robina gets me out of this.
Yeah.
Whereas Extrav, if you draw like Field Spell Token, you're like sick. I did it. So there's an argument there. I guess we could also touch upon everything from BODE being relatively easy to get, but Baron has been ballistic. Have you seen the price of that card?
Classic Synchro Storm.
Or just
classic Legendary Duelist. Let's just reel it back. There's always one.
Yeah.
And you know what? Baron is the one. So we're not like a super dedicated to opening a lot of product. Well, I am. But on mass quantities, we have seen that in Europe, which is the region that our cards are printed, Barons are on average 2 per case of Ultras. So very hard to get. Or if you're some stores, 1. And that's, terrible. But that is coming with the price. And TCG Player, obviously, this is, after the fact, just had their 15% bonus bucks back sale. And Baron is triple digits in the States.
It's like 200 New Zealand dollars.
It is, in fact, cracking more than the Ghost Rare, which is wild.
And I'm very lucky. I have a bit of a story about how I acquired my one yesterday. Before Hobby League, my friend goes, I bought 32 packs of that Synchron Storm. And I said to him, hey, if you pull the Baron, please sell it to me. And then I get home and I get a picture of him after he's cracked his back holding it. And I'm like, I'm saved. Because I honestly don't know how else I can even acquire that card in New Zealand at the moment. It's so hard to find.
It would be from like America or Europe, like actual
or
overseas.
there's like UK retailers.
Yeah,
and that's not worth it. That's not worth the time. But
because by the time, it'll be here in the second wave. So like, it's a really awkward card to get hold of.
Yeah, it's crazy. But is it worth it? It absolutely is. And
should we get into our first little topic? Joe, you mentioned you wanted to talk about the impact of some of these new cards we talked about in previous episodes. Of course, talking about Crossout and having Crossout Designator are 2 different things. And to start us off, like how has that card been for you? Have you played it? Have you tried it? Have you seen it?
I didn't buy it when it first came out because I was a bit skeptical of it. I was like, I don't know if I probably like listened to Pack a bit too much. I was like, he says it's bad, it must be bad. Then I started testing it out online in Sword Soul, and I'm like, it's kind of good in Sword Soul. Like you need to get your play through, and like it just gives you another way of getting your play through. And I feel like because you can run so many hand traps, you're not losing out as much like by running that card. You guys might argue differently, but so far in testing, I've really enjoyed the Crossout Designator, and I've actually just picked up a physical set on the weekend as well. So I've splashed out quite a lot of money lately for BODE. But yeah, I've really been enjoying it, and also the interaction with the Sword Soul level 10 synchro. I don't know the names very well, sorry.
Xing Yang. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and he triggers with cards like that and DD Crow. So like I've been playing around and trying to get his effect a bit more utilized, I suppose. Originally because I wasn't going to get hold of Baron, but that's a different story. But yeah, I feel like Crossout may be a card we start to see come into the meta a little bit more than what it did when it first came in, because it didn't do what we probably predicted it to do.
Well, it's interesting.
No.
You mention it as kind of what people have discovered is, it's really good in decks where it can act as like just the worst gold sark ever printed. Because even like I've seen, people discuss how in Tri-Brigade, it can also be used as a pseudo extender to set up like a turn 1 Shureg search. If you just get interrupted, which is quite good.
We've seen the discussion of using it in Fluanderies, like if you're adding back off like Token to you can have your normal summons.
It can actually turn Token into a turn 1 extender, where normally it has to add back a Fluander is very difficult on its own. If you play Crossout, you can actually set it up and get that additional normal summon. So it does have added utility outside of the obvious negating hand traps. I've been playing it in Hero exclusively so far, and in that deck it feels just absolutely ballistic. It's insane.
I definitely feel like it is one of those cards, and it is something we did talk about earlier in multiple other podcasts. It's a card that, like, when it goes in these 1-card engine decks, it is insane. Everything outside of that, it's not great because Maxi is not in our format, and that's how I've sort of viewed that card.
We don't have to worry about the big bug threat as the OCG do. I think that Crossout Designator, I believe it's going to do something similar to how Ash Blossom impacted the meta when it first came out. I think we've seen this initial hype. You have to have it. It's mandatory. we've now seen the lull. We've now seen it go from a wow, include it as much as you can to it's kind of good. Like, it's kind of good. It does, it functions. It does its job well. I think potentially in the future, we will see something that just shoots it right back up to the competitive viability, similar to how Ash Blossom was on initial release.
Yeah.
The reason I really like it in Heroes is because it isn't a discrete one-card engine deck, but you do have room for 10 hand traps in the current build. And they're all hand traps that, like, you don't, it's at its best when you're playing a deck that just wants to be playing those one-for-one exchangeable hand traps, like, I'm going to Ash your card, I'm going to Meister this card, cards that you don't mind exchanging for one of your opponent's resources. It's less good if you want to, like, max out on Nibiru and stuff like that, because you want your versions of those board-breaking cards to also be live to punish your opponent sometimes. And I also really like it in Heroes because everyone's playing Fusion Destiny.
Yeah.
So you can actually, like, interrupt quite a common meta appearance.
Yeah.
By just going like, oh, I play that too. Yeet. But mostly it's come up in these, like, quote unquote counter wars where it's like, I've honestly cross-outed more Called by the Graves than I have hand traps. Because you'll be, like, trying to interrupt your opponent with a set cross-out when they called by your hand trap. You can cross out their called by, and then you win that exchange, which can be huge in terms of disruption.
Yeah.
And I mean, speaking of, the next impactful card that we've seen land into the meta is that exact Fusion Destiny summon, Destroy Phoenix Enforcer. Sorry, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, as it's known in the TCG. Initial thoughts, Joe? What are we thinking? How are we feeling about this card and it's finally having it in person?
Very, very good. The one thing I did notice over the weekend, though, in testing, is it's not great against Flow Under Ease. So Flow Under has the inbuilt bird that can get rid of it. So, like, obviously it's insane, don't get me wrong. Like, it will come back every turn. But, like, when a deck has an inbuilt answer just to banish it, you really have to pick your target of what you want to destroy, because you're likely to only get that one destroy. So it's a very good card. It's very accessible. I think it's better than Dragoon in the way that the engine doesn't hinder you as much as the Dragoon engine. The fact that you can get the draw of Celestial, the fact that if you draw a monster, you can special if you got the Dasher Engrave. Like, it gives you a bit more versatility than what Dragoon does. As a one-for-one card against Dragoon as an on-field presence is still a better card, in my opinion. However,
agree.
Destiny Phoenix Enforcer is, like, I don't know, it's more versatile, and it has synergy with certain other strategies as well. So, like, if you plus off of Destruction, this card's insane.
Yeah. I think that Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer is here to stay. Obviously, jumping forward a wee bit, we've seen OTS 18 has been announced, and in there is Ultimate Rare Fusion Destiny. So it's pretty indicative that they understand this card is impactful, and they're willing to keep it around. I'm just going to say there is no Ultimate Rare Red Ice Fusion, so knock knock on death's door for Dragoon, potentially.
ODS 18, we don't know the full list yet.
We don't know the full list.
Ulti Dragoon coming.
But I think that I do believe that Destroy Phoenix Enforcer is exactly how you describe it. It is impactful. It is a really unique interaction. Recurrable threats are always something that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has kind of not had in its existence for a long time. And I believe you're right. I believe that, card to card, Dragoon is the more threatening presence, but Destroyer has the versatility that Dragoon does not. As a hero player, how do you feel about it, Lucas?
As a completely unbiased and passive observer, Dragoon can suck it. No, I'm just kidding. But DPE is, I think, card for card, it's only worse than Dragoon in the exact instance where they're faced up against each other. Dragoon has exactly 100 more attack points than this in the blanket Fusion Destiny face-off, which is very funny because of DPE's attack reduction effect with just 2 heroes in the grave. Obviously, if you're playing heroes, this card outs Dragoon because it can beat over it, which is a plus. I think the best thing about DPE is that it's evasive. And your point about Fluunderies, I think, aligns it quite a lot with cards like Mystic Mine, in that if your deck has like a native out to it, it's less threatening. But there are just decks that don't have built-in graveyard interaction. Aside from, I think, Shadol, Fluwanda, I can't think of another deck. I guess Tri-Brigade have the Link 3 Resvelga. But aside from that, not many decks have a way to get this thing out of the grave without at least using a whole card worth, either like a Ghost Bell, a Skullmeister, a DD Crow, exactly. So that positions it in a sense that if you don't have the quote-unquote out in your main deck, this card is just going to win the game on its own. It's so strong. Yeah. Most removal destroys it, which triggers it. And if you can stick a Zeus, this card will just pop itself and come back. And then immediately threaten that Zeus on the field. Like it makes any kind of lingering threat a joke. Any floodgates, any persistent cards like Zeus or Appaloosa, like they all struggle to deal with this card returning. And it very much reminds me of like an inevitability game that Mech Knights play with Purple Nightfall. But the setup is just so much easier and harder to interact with.
I think another important thing to say about the card is, unlike your Dragoon, where I know you don't usually play a deck with 3 Red Eyes Fusion, but if you were playing a stun style of deck, you can do everything before you then do you can hold on to that Fusion Destiny. Like, and that, I think we've spoken about that before, and that's huge. You can bait the negates of your Sword Soul monsters or whatever you're trying to do, and you can still end on a DPE. And like that, as you say, that is sometimes enough. Like if you even don't do any of your plays of your actual deck, and we've spoken about this before with boss monsters, you can be like, hey, I'm playing DPE Turbo, by the way. Yeah.
Yep, so it would work, And it works quite easily summon too.
Yeah.
If you were like summon Verte, Fusion Destiny, summon DPE, I don't know, Verte, send to, summon Dystopia. That's like two Fusion Destiny targets pretty easily.
Yeah, it's really impactful, and I think it's a game. It's going to be here to stay, and I think we'll see it ebb and flow throughout the meta as I think we expected it to.
I do think, like this month, every deck is going to try and force DPE. It's not going to be good in every deck.
No,
like every deck, like Dragoon, is going to try and force a DPE 3 Fusion Destiny 2 targets into their deck, and it's not good.
No.
But it is good in a lot of decks.
Yeah, and we've touched about it, but another incredible boss monster that's just been printed was Baron de Fleur. So obviously we've discussed legendary duelists and their very notoriety for short prints. Lucas, would you like to take a quick reminder onto our listeners how hard it was to get, let's say, a dusted gold?
No.
Okay, cool. It was I believe 2 per case. It was similar. I believe it was 1 in 720 packs. Was the ratio for a dusted gold. We did pull a lot of Sinister Necroms, which is a lovely ultra evil hero, just not the one people wanted.
Sick $2 ultra.
So yeah, Baron is out. Obviously, we've seen this in the OCG, having a lot of impact in the Sword Soul strategies. I think we can all collectively agree that it's super impactful. Is that would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
It's
another B-Sav.
Yeah.
Woo! I mean, like,
but it's a cute girl on a horse.
It's the best synchro they've printed this year.
Yep.
And it feels like every year we get the synchro that is now the best synchro to make. Like, we had Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, we had Borrelode Savage Dragon, Herald of the Arclight, now it's Baron. Nothing changes. It's just a broken-ass card that does everything. Every deck can theoretically make it. Auroradon is still legal for some reason.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. The card is nuts.
I think that this is probably a standout from the Legendary Duelist series, and I think finally maybe something that's starting to gain a bit more traction is the Luralisk strategy, and in particular the Luralisk Ultras that were also in the Legendary Duelist set. The cards like Celestine Wagtail, which searches kind of the main enabler for this deck now, which is Luralisk Bird Call. I am this honestly read as a custom card.
This card is nuts.
This card reads as a custom card. So for those who might not know, just people who might not be aware with the Luralisk strategy, a Luralisk Bird Call is a normal spell that says take 1 Luralisk monster and either send it to the grave or add it to your hand from deck. And then you can special summon a Luralisk monster from your hand with a different name than the one you add or send.
Yes, yeah. I have not looked at this card yet, so that's nuts.
So a lot of the Luralisks trigger on special summon from hand or just special summon in general. Obviously, your big enablers are cards like Turquoise Warbler, which is kind of your marauding captain for the archetype when it's specialed from hand. Cobalt Sparrow can search for level 1 winged beasts. Wagtail, which is the new Ultra, can search, Luralisk spell traps. This card is seeing a lot of play in pure and Tri-Brigade variants. And I think the hype is justified. I think that this deck is actually what is now bird up, essentially.
Are you enjoying reading this card, Joe?
That's nuts. There's like a better rota with like a special. Oh, that's insane.
It's just rota with upside that can also be Foolish Burial.
Yeah. That's honestly the
This
first
card's
time I've
nuts,
even looked at it, to be honest. So yeah.
And none of the Luralisks need to be normaled. So this card essentially just says pop off for free and do whatever else you want after. It doesn't lock you. So you can just do the entire Luralisk play. I was doing Appaloosa for 4 materials, normal summon fractal combos back before this card came out. And those were on the back of the power of cards like Turquoise Warbler. If you could send Cobalt Sparrow to the graveyard with fractal, this card just does that on its own. So you don't even need setup. Sure, you may not draw this card, but if you open Celestine Wagtail, you can just search it and pretty much get the same result. I think this card is huge, and I think it gives a huge power boost to the bird up deck that was just kind of barrier statue pass before this. An inconsistent barrier statue pass, if that.
Yeah,
because I don't think barrier statue is good anymore, unfortunately. And we can talk about that going forward. But I think that this is, reinvigorated level 1 birds, and their new boss monster, Ensemble Robin, has really given like Luralisks a payoff. Like Assembled Nightingale, we all know is your level 1 pick Zeus, haha. But Ensemble is incredible. Such an amazing interruption for every deck except Fluanderies.
Do you want to tell people what Ensemble does?
Yeah, sure. So Ensemble is a rank 1, and it's gains 500 attack for each material underneath it. And when your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, you can detach material and return one of the special summon monsters to hand. I believe it does target. Obviously, we'll put the proper card image up to those watching along, just so that you can confirm. I believe it targets. And then it says if it is sent to grave by an opponent's card. Oh, that's also not once per turn.
That's the important part.
I'll just also
it's
reference that. That's not once per turn. So, for example, 4 materials is 4 special summon bounces.
4 interruptions, yeah.
And then if it is sent to grave by an opponent's card, you can add one other Luralisk card from your grave to your hand. Luralisk got a really great extender in the form of Beryl Canary, which is a 1-card rank 1, provided you have a Luralisk monster in grave. So this facilitates a lot. And, the use of potentially 2 materials from Xyz monsters jumps to 4. You have cards like Sapphire Swallow that if it's used as material on summon, it attaches another material from grave, Luralisk monster from material. And then Celestine Wagtail, the new Ultra, is also able to attach itself from grave to a Luralisk Xyz. So turning a 2 material rank 1 to a 4 material rank 1, which in turn leads to 4 pieces of interruption.
You're really hot on this deck, aren't you, Ruben?
It's great. I think we watched it pure. Eli, one of the people that we tested with, is playing this deck pure, and it is very threatening.
I think it's been overlooked as well, because I haven't even really looked into it myself. For me,
and that's the thing, is I feel like this is quite common with LED sets. Everyone goes, right, the Ultra you should be worrying about, and it just totally washes everything else.
Most of them are terrible.
Yeah, you think of Rage of Ra is a really poor example, but Magical Hero, which was Souls, everyone went, okay, Souls is the best card, but Satellite Warrior is a really great level 10 synchro. Sunrise and Liquid Soldier, incredible ads for the hero players. I think some people were even like, I don't care about Souls, I want Sunrise and Liquid Soldier. So this is something that LED hero, like Legendary Duelist sets quite often do. And I think this is, something that to keep an eye out for if you're interested in the strategy, because it's also really affordable.
So you decided, you've been playing Tri-Brigade Bird Up, Ruben. You've also been toying with Sword Soul.
Yeah.
Joe,
you've trying Fluwander.
You've bought Fluwander and Sword Soul. I've been playing Fluwander and Heroes. And for the meat of this episode, I thought we would, for fun, have a go through all of the decks that are currently in the format and rank them.
Yeah.
It's never before been done on YouTube. It's
Never
called a
seen
tier
it.
list.
I would never know. I would never
But
know.
of course, if anyone did steal this idea from us and do it before we
Fine.
put the podcast out with some kind of crazy time travel technology, we of course have the most definitive and competitively minded opinions on what is good. So, Joe, can you see my?
I can see.
You can see.
We're
All right, so
good.
I've got all the decks here. We can move them around and stuff. And we're just going to rank all these decks. We're going to tell the people what is good. And we're going to start here with Sword Soul. What tier is Sword Soul?
Sword Soul, I think, personally, playing the deck part of me, spooking me. I think that this is, I'd probably put it tier 1.
It's tier 1.
Yeah.
That's easy.
I think
it's just it's so consistent. Joe, do you have any?
I think what we're seeing with Sword Soul is what we've seen with Tri Brigade last format, where it was like,
Yeah.
if you interrupt the play, yeah, sure, it might die, but it's always going to have that play in its opening hand. So it's a tier 1 deck for that reason, I believe.
Tri Brigade. Where are we putting Tri Brigade?
Right. Does this encompass all Tri Brigade builds?
We'll say like the best Tri Brigade build, whatever that ends up being.
Still tier
Yes,
1.
should we say it's I would say probably tier 1.
That's tier 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Tri Brigade as an engine is untouched. You just lost a Tinky. So your deck is still just as fine. It got 2 cards less consistent.
That's fair.
One thing I will say before we carry on with the tier list is we're probably going to see a lot in that tier 1. Like, it's a very diverse format. Yeah, but
also,
anyway,
this deck is like $30.
Yeah.
Drytron.
Drytron?
Where's Drytron?
Tier 1.
It's tier 1?
It's tier 1 or tier 2.
I think it's tier 2.
I think Drytron. The thing is it's every deck profile I'm seeing post Burst of Destiny is still on 3-Droll and Lockbird, and it's because this deck exists. It's just you simply have to have your answers.
But doesn't
to
the
these ritual
fact
ads.
that everyone's on Droll and Lockbird, sure, it like addresses a problem in the room, but like this deck, it literally loses to that. Like there's nothing they can do if they don't draw you out.
Personally, it's in between tier 1 and 2, so I'll call it the tier 1.5. But for argument's sake, because we don't have the 1.5, we'll put it in
It's
tier
like
2.
top of tier 2.
Top of tier 2,
100%.
I don't feel like it's fair calling it tier 1 because it just doesn't top enough. Like
no,
it has its power plays. We all know it's good, but every single time it goes to an event, it bubbles or it becomes massively outrepresented by like the Tri Brigade lists that are just running 3 Rescue Cat for full combo. Like it's a really cool deck. I think it's got some interesting builds that no one explores because the most consistent thing to do is the fairy stuff. But it's definitely, I think it's tier 2.
Yeah.
Fluonderies.
Tier 1.
You think it's tier 1?
I think Fluonderies is tier 1.
I think this is like below Drytron.
I think it's better. I think that Fluonder is honestly the strategy that everyone is going to prepare for, but that mirror I think is a nightmare. I think that all your plays are against special summon decks, so it's going to take a Fluonder player that can understand how to beat the normals to beat this deck. I think that Fluonder does so much. I would personally put
Joe,
it in tier
you said
1.
this deck like auto wins versus Shaddoll, right?
So it has a really good matchups against certain things. What I'm going to say about it is it's very much, and I've spoken to you guys in the week about it, it reminds me of Monarch. Not because of the tribute summon and mechanics, it's because it's going to be highly represented. It's got bricking problems, but when it goes off, you're not going to win against it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those decks. Like,
I don't think it's tier 1 until they get their new card.
I will agree with that. A Journey Preparations is so strong. And
I would put top end tier 2 for me.
Top end tier 2.
Because last night when I was testing, I drew Book, Drooler, Prosperity, and added an Eaglin off of that. I didn't see a single Robina or like a way to it.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, if that book was Journey Preparations, the new card, then I drew full combo.
Yeah.
Like it's a Book of Moon that fixes bad hands, or not a Book of Moon, but like a Swallow's Nest to dodge Imperm, but also can turn drawing the bad Fluonderies into drawing the good ones. I think that's going to probably propel it more consistently into that tier 1 slot. But for now, I think it bricks a little too much.
I think
it needs to win the games it's going first, and if you brick going first, you just are so upset.
I think it is very much if you go, it's not so much go first or bust, but it definitely has a questionable going second.
Well, it's fine to be go first or bust. Like back row decks have been always that way.
Yes,
but the problem with playing a go first or bust deck is if you brick on the game you're supposed to win, then you're on the back foot for the entire match because you're supposed to win the going first match if you win the die roll.
Yeah.
If you lose that, you have to win 2 disadvantaged matchups. It's way harder. And a bricky deck just has problems. Like Sword Soul sucks at going second, but it's just never going to brick.
No.
All right, next deck, Virtual World. One close to my heart.
One close to a lot of people's heart
I
here.
really want to put it tier 1.
Tier
I
2.
don't think it is. It's
tier
tier
2. Possibly
Two
even.
Telly's huge.
2E Telly's really strong. My personal not my personal vendetta, but my personal issue with the deck is that this deck struggled with Dryden in the format.
Yes,
And
I was about
DPE
to
is
say.
just it's just a deck. It's just every deck's Dryden.
I think it's currently better than Fluanda. I think it's more of a
I think it's
consistent,
very even
capable
there.
deck.
Yeah, I would also say it's quite
Because
even.
if you don't open well with it and your only play is to try set up a thing on board to like summon a virtual world off and they have DPE, you're gonna have a bad time. So like it is very like close. I think you're probably like, because we're ranking this by how we feel like the decks are going to perform. I think we're going to see more Fluanderies top just because of the representation.
But it's
Like,
also
people-
easier to play.
Yeah, and it's easier to play. Yeah, so
Virtual
but
is also super accessible.
I think I can make the argument that VDub is the best going second deck of the format that wants to go first. I have literally outed 5 negate perfection boards from Drytron with just 4 virtual world names and a tactics. Like it is so doable because every virtual world card like represents so much interaction.
Yeah.
For example, like throwing down a King Long, they have to negate it because if you can get something to grave, you can just then use the on-field effect to negate the perfection, and then you can just cycle the King Long and just do all this crazy stuff.
I do think it's definitely like a higher end of tier 2, but I don't think it's tier 1 anymore.
No.
Speaking of decks that have maybe fallen from their tier 1 status, Prank Kids. How do you feel about Prank Kids being tier 1?
Bottom
No.
end of tier 2.
You think
tier
it's
2.
bottom tier 2?
Yeah,
DPE exists. DPE, Fluanda, every deck now is just, I'll tribute your things, I'll banish your things, I'll pop your things.
Yeah.
And again, just like Virtual World, Prank Kids really struggled with Dryden in the format.
I mean,
I could
losing
even-
the Meow Meow to 3 really hurt their play-through possibility.
Yes.
That is true.
I think this is also possibly a card that could even a deck that might even drop down into tier 3. Like, in all honesty,
Whoa.
I feel like it's a deck that because of the hard counters in the format for it, you're gonna see less and less people playing it.
I mean, it's a good cross-out deck.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
it is.
One card starters.
Yeah, I feel like at the moment definitely like the bottom end of tier 2, but
Okay.
that's my own opinion on it. Just because there's now harder outs in the format.
I guess looking at these other 3 decks in tier 2, I think they all beat Prank Kids.
Yes,
Fluanda's tough because Prank Kids is way more consistent than Fluanda.
it is.
So
But I think overall power level of Fluanda,
I think that
tops
Fluanda
it,
is
yeah.
too powerful. Also, Unexplored Wins just outs Butler. That's my thing.
I've also had experiences playing against Prank Kids where they set up the full combo and I just beat it.
Yeah.
Whereas Fluanda, I don't think you beat that board. It's so
It's so
aggressive.
hard to it's so hard.
Lyrilisk.
I would put
So
tier 2.
This is pure. This is pure
Pure?
Lyrilisk.
I would probably put this tier 2. I would probably put
bottom
it
end?
tier. I
Or
would
high?
Top end.
I would
top
top end. This
Is this
deck
included in tribal game?
does- No. So
No.
we'll
You can
leave
play
it-
like Nerval. So
yeah, you play like Nerval, but
this deck makes Utopic Draco Future on some blue with 3 bounces and occasionally can make Assembled Nightingale to just make everything at towers.
yeah. And then Recital Starling, not Recital, sorry, MBT. Recital Starling is just you just both take battle damage. So there's very often instances where if you can't break through 4 bounces in a monster negate, you just die.
The deck can search DD Crow. The continuous spell just draws a card every turn. Do you know this? The continuous spell just says draw a card.
If you control an Xyz monster with 3 or more materials.
It's insane. So I think this deck legitimately.
And
I think
also
it's better than VDub.
yeah, and also the inclusion of Harpy's Featherstorm, just similar to how you would in a Tri Brigade variant in Fluanda. It literally time walks decks.
I'd be tempted to put this above Drytron.
I could honestly see it.
Their board's as good, but it's way easier, and they both lose to draw. I guess.
They do both lose to draw.
So they're kind of I'll put it below Drytron because I think Drytron has the higher ceiling, but it's pretty up there.
It's around there, yeah.
So yeah.
Shadow Steve.
So Shadow Steve, Tell us
If
what
we're
you think
talking-
about Shadows.
If we're talking pure Shadow, it's definitely in Rogue.
Let's go Dole and like
this
Trap
is
Dole.
Shadow,
Yeah.
for reference.
Okay.
So
So
we're not
this is
talking about
Trap
Invoked Shadow.
This is Trap Shadow.
This will be every version of Shadow that doesn't play Invoked, whatever they are.
Rogue. Like
It's Rogue?
I hate to say it, but it's Rogue now. Like and I know we're bringing up Floor Under as a reason for a lot of things, but this deck just doesn't do anything against Floor Under. Like the fact that they
the other
Yeah.
deck, not Flawanda.
I'd argue this deck has a 90% versus Sword Soul.
yeah,
I would agree.
I mean it's very good against Sword Soul. But
If
the
you win for a Sword Soul player, they scoop. They can't do anything.
The problem we have though, is Shadow. Like if you take Shadow into a tournament now, you're gonna wipe the floor with your Sword Soul matchups. You're gonna do pretty well against maybe your virtual, well, maybe not so virtual world, but Lyrilisk and maybe Tri
Your
Brigade
Drytron,
that has
yeah.
those sorts of decks. You're gonna have an alright time. As soon as you come up against that Flounder, it's so hard to
over.
beat. Like
It's
you,
literally
like
death.
what do you do? You
draw-
make a Winder? Like no, like you make a shit. Yeah, you don't. They don't care about construct. They don't care
You
about
make a
anything.
Grista, buddy.
And
No
they,
special summon.
Oh, shut up.
Nothing.
You make a Shekinah.
Nothing. No special summon.
Oh
yeah,
my god, you're right. They actually can't do anything.
There's
So-
nothing. It's like
And-
you can't.
you're
what,
playing a beatdown deck.
Yeah.
Like
You're
like
playing beat down. Your Shadow Fusion isn't
Yeah.
netting you resources. You're having to use it from hand.
By that logic, would you
Also-
put Invoked above it?
Yes.
Because Invoked can make Caliga.
yes.
I don't think Invoked is like tier.
No,
no,
it's tier
also
three.
stop normal summoning Alistair. It's 2021.
It's
Get over it.
Probably tier 2. It probably is. Like, let's be real. We've all
If
lost
we're
to this
talking
deck.
Shadow, Invoked, Dogmatica, then yes, probably the
Yeah,
bottom end of tier 2.
I
But
think it's still viable.
yeah, one other comment I will make about Shadow now as well is like even their like monsters like I can't think of the Aerial. Like they don't care about that either. Like
What's that doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Dimensional Shifter is in the meta now as well.
Well, it
and,
does hurt a deck when one of the most popular and budget-friendly meta decks of the format
yes.
is a hard counter.
It's the antithesis of the strategy.
And I think Sword Soul doesn't have that problem with Shadow because Shadow is not one of the most budget-friendly meta. I mean, you still have to buy Dogmatica, you still have to buy, structure decks and schisms and stuff that's getting a little bit harder to like come across, I guess.
Megatons.
True, it was in the Mega
Yeah.
but
it
like
wasn't a Megaton, yeah.
it's not as easy to pick up as just a full Fluanda base or a full Lyrilisk base from like one set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's never going to be like as popular as the new fun hotness. And everyone's already played Construct for a year. Like they know what it does.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always
Signal
going to have the
if
soft
you
spot
don't.
for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Heroes, tier 3.
yeah,
I would put Heroes tier 3. Darklaw is and will remain the best card. I just believe that personally, pardon me, spooky me, I think that Heroes are at a moment where the amount of interaction that's running around in the metagame just outpaces them. Like a touch.
I hard disagree. I think Heroes is super pushed right now.
do you
I
think,
think Heroes
more
are pushed.
to
I think Heroes
tier
are pushed.
2 or
I think it's tier 2. I think DPE alone is enough to make this deck tier 2. Like I
Yeah.
understand where you're coming from interaction. Literally the best play Sword Soul does is Fusion Destiny pass. Like that is their best goddamn play. And in Heroes, you can start with that play. It then gives you extenders that if you get interrupted after that, you still got DPE. If they ash your Fusion Destiny, you've still got your normal hero deck. So I think I'm still in the lab with this deck. I think it's tier 2. I think it's definitely viable in this meta.
It's definitely competitive.
I don't think it's going to take like every event, but it's going to take top slots.
You have to
I think
buy their cards too.
That's true.
I think I would agree with tier 2 on that. Like to be honest, like because we've seen that inherently like the hero engine is quite strong. It has Darklaw, and Darklaw DPE seems pretty good to me. So
well, looking at these top decks, Darklaw eradicates Tri Brigade. It kills Drytron. It kills VDub, and then other decks are going to struggle against like the board wipe of Absolute Zero. Like DPE kills Prank Kids. I think it has like really good tools against most of these decks.
It's just almost like it's a touch. It hits too much. Like it hits too much a little bit and not something really strong.
I think Darklaw like it's an insta kill versus Tri Brigade.
But Darklaw's Darklaw. Like I don't think Darklaw's a fair metric to judge a whole deck on because also you have to work to get Darklaw. It's not just something that you can go, oh, oops, I've got Darklaw, lol.
The whole point of the deck previously was you had no linear play to Darklaw. It was like you had to draw Mask Change or do some kind of like voodoo magic to get Shadow Mist to special summon itself, right? Now you have a linear game plan to DPE that occasionally you draw into Mask Change for. And I get that like the ceiling is still like you need luck to draw into it. But I mean, even the interaction where Cross Crusader, if you get like Skullmeisted on the return effect of DPE, Cross Crusader can just reborn it. It's a Destiny hero. Yeah. So it's never gone. And you can run 2. It's very easy to make 2.
I think for argument's sake, we'll leave it at tier 2.
I think tier 2.
Yeah. I think it's above tier 3. I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Evil Twins, or Live Twins. This I think is probably tier 3.
Yeah. This is like a tier 3 deck.
I feel like Twins are really strong. Twins are so strong. Trouble Sunny is, as we discussed in our Boss Monsters discussion podcast episode, exactly what the deck needed. Yeah. I don't think it's enough anymore. I just don't. I don't think, the pop and special summons are, what is going to push this deck above everything that it's looking at on this list so far.
It's kind of just doing its best DPE impression.
Yeah. It's DPE, but it draws a card, so.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like better, but like it's hard as to get
targets, to. You can't use it in direct response to something because it starts a new chain.
Yeah.
It's very strong. It'll definitely take games.
And I think events. Twins have the resilience of having such, discrete engine that they can put in killer back row, they can put in killer spells, they can put in killer hand traps. It's a wee bit tough at this moment in time establishing where I think Evil Twins will sit. I think a bit more testing is needed.
Speaking of waifus, Sky Striker, Rogue.
Rogue.
That's Rogue.
Yeah. I'm liking seeing Striker with DPE.
Yeah.
I am.
Maybe I'm overlooking that. This deck has not.
I just think it needs something else, but like that something else is literally another engage, which can't happen. And I think that, Sky Striker have always had a lot of strength, but I think now more than ever, a lot of its unique interaction is it doesn't do enough.
I think
and you also can't get to it fast enough.
It's one of the decks that will utilize DPE the best. In its own engine for the fact that you can clear off your main deck monster and plus off of it. But not plus, but it benefits you. So I would put it personally in that on that line from Rogue to tier 3. We might see it a little bit more, but yeah, you're right. It hasn't done anything much since coming back.
There were topping striker lists that were playing Dragoon. So even knowing that, and those lists were outperforming pure at tournaments.
Yeah.
Knowing that Striker needed that extra help.
Yeah.
It makes sense that DPE fulfills that role.
I think it does better than Dragoon though, because obviously it clears off the main monster zone.
Yeah. But we may eat crow here, but I think it's Rogue, and I think Rogue is fair. It's still heavily
it's a good
on
Rogue
the bad
deck.
list. Its best card is at 1. That's going to hurt any deck.
And shocked the community when it came back.
We're going to talk about another deck that's had its best card put to 1 and just completely died.
Yeah.
Before that, Guru Control, whether it's Draguru or Floodgate Guru. I'm going to say it's Rogue.
Rogue. It's too much of a going first strategy in my book.
Yeah, I would probably put, I know Eldritch is on this list and we might be jumping ahead. I think I'd put Eldritch higher than Guru at this moment in time.
Yeah, sorry, Thomas. I mean, Guru's still good. Again,
sorry, Troy as well.
Yeah, sorry, Troy.
Like we talked about with Flunder and Monarch, once it's going, you're not going to win. But I think getting it going, it relies a lot on your opponent playing into what you have, unless you open the absolute nuts. If your opponent battles into your Guru, you win the game. But, especially with DPE, with all the removal people are playing, it just seems hard to stick a Guru and hope that's enough.
I'm in second. It just doesn't quite cut it. It doesn't do enough. People.
And that's why the Red Eyes Fusion build was popular, right?
Yeah, Draguru. Yeah,
because you just go Red Eyes Fusion, set Guru. That's your going second play.
Yeah, sick. You better get into it.
Dinosaur Rogue.
Yeah.
4-1 hurt too bad. You can actually interact with them now, which turns out makes the deck kind of glass cannony.
Yeah. It doesn't give it its recovery either. Once that first misc is gone, if you can weather that first storm, it's that's it.
It's feeling like August, where once they lost Harp, they had this really convoluted 7-card extra deck combo.
Scrap, Recycler, Golem, Wyvern.
That got them to the same board, but was just if you just interrupt it, they pass. And Dinosaurs, if you Ash the misc they activate, they're just I've got no misc anymore for the rest of the game. And also my combo is over. Pass. That's tough.
Yeah, I'd keep it at Rogue. Dragoon or like Dragoon.deck.
Yeah,
I
Great
mean,
Keeper,
Rogue.
Dragoon Turbo, Rogue. Yeah, it's easy Rogue.
Yeah, as you know, this is exactly what you face in Palmerston North. What are your thoughts on this, Joe?
It's just too easy to get around. Like if you main deck of droplets, or you even side of droplets or Dark Ruler no more, it's like that's it. You're done. Like cool.
And everyone's on it. Every list I'm seeing is on tactics, droplets, Dark Rulers, just because like what we're seeing at the tier 1 and 2 is just insane boards.
It's not on this list, but I think Inspector Board has kind of replaced this as the full helmet, just 5 back row pass deck.
Well, you play them both
in
some of the decks.
You play them, yeah.
Well, the advantage of Inspector Border is you can, it doesn't take up too many resources to just put 3 monsters in your deck with 37 trap cards.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Adagnista.
I think I'd probably put this at tier 3.
This deck's kind of good.
I think Adagnista's fun. We just saw Kez come first in Swiss and top for the latest Bay Dragon extravaganza.
World.
And Small World was something that he was on to find his Adagnista pieces.
Kind of sick, actually. They're all different levels, different types, and they're all Cybers.
So, and different attacks and defenses.
That's a card that a lot of people are overlooking as well. Like that card is so good. Yeah.
I think I would comfortably put Agnus there. I think Towers.deck is still good. I think that potentially it's not as strong as I think it once was. And I also think, people are kind of taking kaijus out because Striker's kind of disappearing. So
I haven't cited kaijus in weeks.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the tier 3 potential. It's got a lot of potential. I would say it's tier 3 high potential.
Yeah, I put it around the same of live twins. Like it could top a tournament. It could win a tournament.
It's almost like tier 3 is like the waiting room. It's like you've got potential. Let's just see it.
Okay, I don't know why this banned card is here, but Zodiac, it's bad Rogue. This guy's bad. I have seen people jamming it. Like, no, Zeus still good. Zeus Turbo. Zeus is still at 3. We've got Cross out now, which is actually kind of legit in Zodiac because it is truly the 1 card engine deck to end them all. But I don't think it hangs.
I don't think it hangs, Dom. Salad, Rogue.
Oh, I'm gonna put
this deck's like tier 2, but no one plays it. That's my opinion.
So my opinion on Salad now, I actually have thought about Salad a little bit in this format, and it's now awful because
you think it sucks.
DPE.
Like
you DPE the normal summon, you don't have any follow up unless you got the Gazelle in hand, and the chances of that pretty low.
The funny thing about Salamangreat is that like the lists that have been top, like Salamangreat didn't get nuked as hard as Striker and Thunder Dragon, and they got their nuke target back. They got Mirage Stalio back. So they're basically back to where they were during like the end of TOS. And the deck's like it's very good and no one plays it.
It does what it does really well.
Because it's just everyone's played it already. Like everyone's bored of Salad.
It does. The only thing that I felt it had going for it is how fast you can go into Access Code Talker and how fast it can come out of nowhere.
Crazy.
And you can do obviously
totally.
If you just
leave if you just leave a Salamangreat player board untouched, they go sick. Update German access code 83, you're dead.
You had a lot of success with this deck, Ruben. It was like this is one of the best performing decks you've ever played during Tri-Brigade format.
Yeah, and it held a candle because I think the back row that you could enable was really impactful.
Sure you beat everybody. I don't even think it held a candle. I think it was like better than Tri-Brigade.
I think Salamangreat was super strong in this meta. Unfortunately, again, Salad really struggled against Trident. That was kind of the biggest issue,
and it wasn't great at going second.
Not to mention Baron as well. Like just completely shuts it down. Like even like Sword Soul's board, like how do you get around that as a Salad player? There's not a lot around it unless you're like made in like a droplets or a Dark Roar or something like that. There's just not enough. And for that reason, and I feel like if we talk about a deck that relies on a card like Dark Roller no more to get your plays going, it can't be in the tier list really. Like it can't be a tiered deck.
I can foresee a time in which Salamangreat, as it is right now, is like here, like in a different format. Like I think it's crazy how few people play that deck. It's like $20. You play like 0 staples. Like you can play Ash, and like other than that, you play
Ash. It's a fire effect monster.
Yeah, you don't need like a ton of broken staples like Prosperity.
That's to get cheaper at Gold series as well to get your access codes for it.
That's
exactly.
True. Yeah, that's like the only really inaccessible card. So I don't know. I think this is like a good deck. Like
it's good.
I'd almost put it like high Rogue.
I don't think it's much worse than Adagnista, but yeah, I'll put it like the TOS decks can live here.
Yeah, about there.
Hello, TOS. Orcus not on the list because reasons.
Altergeist.
This deck topped like several events lately.
I think I'd probably
tier
put it
three.
tier 3, tier 2. Yeah.
I think it's tier 3.
Tier 3.
I'd say top
you
end
know,
of tier 3.
Yeah, I think Altergeist are really strong. Back row has only gotten better. And really all that people are worrying about now with like excess amounts of back row is evenly matched, which is, you know, you just board for because Lancia does actually do some stuff this format.
Not to mention this is the greatest deck to play evenly matched in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Evenly multi-faker. Thank you very much.
You can just main it. Like,
yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, Altergeist, tried and true. 3 multi-faker is strong. You don't even play 3. So, you know, that's
It's
awesome.
definitely one of those decks as soon as it's set up, like you don't break it. Like, it's so hard to get around like as soon as it's got that set up. So,
It's better than Guru at that as well because of
Yes.
Conquery and spoofing just being such assholes to get around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eldritch. This has been topping as well.
I would probably put it tier 3, maybe even tier 2 once people start
I
jamming
think
Sky
Border
Prison.
Trap Eldritch is tier 2. That's
Tier
my
2.
opinion.
That's my opinion.
I think also Lord of the Heavenly Prison, I think people are really underestimating that one too. That's another burst of Destiny secret that is going under the radar.
We're going to see... Sorry, you carry on.
No, but you're right. We're going to see a lot of this.
And you'll see that Lord of the Heavenly Prison, like that's going to be a card that, like, you know, all of a sudden people's Lightning Storms aren't doing as much. The Harpies, Fairy Duster, like that's nowhere near as good. Like, because you can just protect all that back row. And I think that's super, super underrated. Like, if you can protect your back row and your floodgates, like, I know it's set cards, but like, you know, like that's big. And the fact that you can like then set a trap from the deck after special in it, and the fact also it's a level 10. It is pretty good for Eldritch.
Yeah, also, like Lord of the Heavenly Prison, it's any spell or trap. So if you have anything that can answer your opponent's problems, next turn it's live.
It's like red rebooting yourself.
Yeah, I think it's strong, and I think it will get stronger.
Yeah. All right, Phantom Knight. This is the best. This is the best deck of the format.
I think it's definitely tier 1.
That's my opinion.
I think PK is strong, it stays strong, and it's got more tools with DPE being around.
What do you think, Joe? Because me and Ruben have been kind of decided on this being the best deck of the format for a bit.
I haven't looked into Phantom Knight all that much, probably because like in my own locals, like I've just been focusing mainly on the newer decks, more from a financial standpoint. I don't want to like invest in Phantom Knight at the moment.
Yep.
But I feel like you're right. Like it benefits from a DPE. You can also choose the Dragoon package. Like it sets up a board that, like, you know, the newer decks can struggle to get around. Like what do you call it? The breaks. Lost it. The
Fog
card.
Blades.
Fog Blades. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Like they can stop Sword Soul in their tracks. Like it's good still. And I feel like when you see decks like Shadow and stuff coming out of the format a little bit more because of decks like Floowandereeze, it helps decks like Phantom Knight because their hard counter is like less represented in the format. So from that standpoint, I reckon tier 1. Yeah.
My reasoning for saying this is the best deck of the format is it can play every good new tool that has been printed. You can main Tactics. You can main Droplet easily. You can play Cross out easily. You can play Dragoon. You can play Verte. It very much just feels like the uninteractive version of Drytron because Cherubini is such just a problem card. You know, really does feel like just any 2 level 3s is full combo. The first thing you can Ash is Bardiche, and by that point they've generally set up enough to still end on like, you know, a Verte plus double Fog Blade or something like that. Just really good at making capable boards through anything. And going second, I think they're just, again, like the best Droplet deck of the format. If you open like Boots Droplet, you're like, well, I've already got a follow-up after using Droplet. It's insane. And again, like being able to use DPE, being able to use Cross Out.
Or
and
Dragoon.
We may be a little biased because this is by far the best deck in Japan right now. Purely on the back of the Brave token engine, which is coming out soon. This is easily the best Brave token deck.
Yep.
Not even close. So, yeah, it's interesting that this deck is currently tier 1 and is getting a card like, the series of cards, the Brave tokens that propel it through any hand trap. Kind of worrying, I guess.
Yeah. I think January time could be an interesting ban list.
Yeah.
Around
product release wise, our ban list will be out before we get Grand Creators.
I think they could hit this deck to a tier 2 with a ban before that, just to help push these newer decks. You know, Phantom Knights is playing a lot of old cards. Floowandereeze is getting the new support. Like I could see the list looking a lot more like this
Yes.
post ban list.
Yeah, but for now,
I think Phantom Knight is the best deck. I think Tri Brigade and Sword Soul both kind of accomplishing the same thing in tier 1. Just, pick your flavor of normal summon a guy, make an extra deck monster. It's kind of the format. And I mean, Prank Kids were that last format. They won the YCS for that exact reason.
Yeah. Or Tri Brigade also won that for the exact reason too.
Yeah.
Consistent, does the job really well.
And this deck got hit a lot harder than Tri Brigade, let's be real.
Absolutely. Adamancipators, Synchro, Rogue. I mean, Baron is an incredible tool. We've seen a lot of people on like Dagda, Scythe into Wonder Magician.
Rogue, but yeah.
Yeah, I think synchro stuff is really strong.
But the issue with
it's just there's no resilience, there's no surge. That's what Block Dragon gave.
The issue with Adamancipator has never been making good end boards.
No, it's getting to those end boards.
The reason I think this deck is in the conversation of tier 3 is Ready Fusion specifically. I think Ready Fusion,
$100 Mystical Sands will do that. Yeah.
So yeah, Ready Fusion into Mystical Sand plus the normal summon Analyzer can get you to Baron before you start playing, and I think that's quite powerful and puts more emphasis on the deck being able to like start with protection as opposed to going normal Doki Doki effect Ash. Cool, your turn. I think that puts it in contention, giving them access to a good level 10. Previously, they were on Satellite Warrior,
which needs a synchro monster to play summon it.
It just doesn't do anything going first.
No.
It's more of like a tricky Hulk setup play. I like it. I think the deck is good. I think it's resilient now because if you end on Hulk plus a level 6, you at least have 1 interruption, potentially 2. It's Rogue though.
Yeah.
And then Dragon Link. Where do we feel about Dragon Link?
Gosh.
Is this tier 3?
I
Is this still
want to
tiered?
I want to say tier 2.
I'm probably put it tier 2.
Yeah, like and I know this is a really bad reasoning and it's not got no logical reasoning, but I've been watching a few of these tier lists on YouTube, and for some reason a lot of competitive players.
What are
have
those?
it
I
like
thought
in
we
tier
started
1.
this.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah. No, but a lot of them have it in tier 1, and I don't know if that's because of the BODE cards that I haven't really looked into, to be honest.
They are good.
Yeah, I mean, Rocket Caliber is just a free summon to a Link Zone, so
Dark monster.
It's been given some more tools, and it still puts up consistent, pretty decent end boards. I don't think you can put it in tier 3. Like I feel like it's slightly better than all those decks. I mean, it's probably not
Link,
top end of tier 2.
They
but
didn't get hit very hard on the last ban list. Like Strike a Dragon to 1 was the last thing that happened.
LP ban.
Huh?
LP
and the LP ban. And then after that, it's still topped a YCS. So
and it
it's
hasn't
still
been hit
incredibly
again
good.
since, so yeah.
I think people honestly probably just bored of it. Like it's been a long
Like
time
Salad.
of Rocket or Dragon Link in general. I think people are just like, oh, let's try something else.
Yeah.
Look at that, we did it.
Yeah,
we made the definitive,
the first ever tier list.
the best tier list. The first and the best.
Yeah. But if you listeners have anything that you would like to dispute with us, if you think that Weather Painters are tier 0 and have been completely overlooked in our analysis, please let us know at our contact email at thefacedowns@gmail.com, or feel free to leave a comment down below if you think that we've totally skipped over.
We probably did skip
Musketeers.
over Despia there.
That's kind of Shadol.
It's kind of in the
you
with the
want to
Shadol
move up
stuff.
Shadol if you think the Despia one has potential.
I would say Despia was like bottom in tier 3 Rogue. Yeah,
Okay.
so
I'm happy to put Shadol there. I think Shadol's good.
Okay, now we'll lock in this. We'll lock
Sick.
this one in. Please feel free to contact us at thefacedowns@gmail.com or leave a comment below if you think that we've, totally skipped over Simorg.
Also, like the video.
Yeah.
Because we're on YouTube now, in case you weren't aware, and subscribe to the Face Downs on YouTube. We appreciate it. We need to pay for our crippling card addictions.
And we aim to do a giveaway. But we can more on that after we've read our questions. We'll be giveaway. Huge giveaway. Stay to the end of the video to find out how to win it.
Joe, do we have a giveaway?
I forgot to ask about that.
All right, no giveaway. You're all gonna starve. We can cut
We'll
this
let you
out.
know.
Or is there?
We can cut this out if we want to.
100%.
No, I'm leaving it in. Screw it.
We can
Fine. All right.
I've got an Egyptian god mat I can give away to someone. That's fine.
That's true. I'll give you a really dented Meteonis Drytron. It's truly just absolutely destroyed. And that could be yours. Just message me. I'll give it to you. You want it.
Off topic a bit here. A story from Hobby League, really quickly. Someone had come in with some cards to get priced up. They hand over their folder. We open it up. There's a first edition Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon, secret rare, NA print.
No.
It's bent in half.
Oh
No.
I cried.
Damn.
But anyway, moving on to
you
the
can
next
iron
section.
that out.
Yeah.
You can buff that out. You can buff that out. You can buff that out.
All right. So,
we thought
now-
we'd start a new segment on the podcast.
A new segment. Question time, mailbag, extravaganza. We can come up with a fun name for it next time, but for now, it's questions.
I'm going to think of something while we do
All right,
this.
Ruben's going to think of a dumb, cool name for it.
Yeah.
Not dumb, sorry. But for the time being, Joe, you've got some questions from your locals.
Locals, yes.
I've pulled up all of the lovely questions we were asked on Facebook or via our email address. That is thefacedowns@gmail.com once again. But Joe, you want to lead us off with something?
Yep, I'll save one question for the end. But we have two questions here from Alistair Parks. One of them is directed more at Ruben, and it's just how to understand when something is cost. How do you understand that?
I mean, this is a fun topic. I think this is in our wheelhouse. We will be aiming to do a rulings episode further down the line. I think visuals are a lot more helpful for rulings. As always, I really recommend watching other people play and potentially listening to those people, that do discuss in-depth rulings. People like MST.TV, people like Distant Coder, people like Sir Eminon on YouTube. They're really comprehensive with how you can kind of understand rulings and game mechanics. In terms of cost, I always like to delineate with the colon or semicolon. I believe that is your best indicator of when things are cost or they are part of what we is also known as the activation requirement. So something, for example, let's say Raigeki Break. That's a classic example. It is discard and target one card on the field. Colon. So there is an activation requirement to, this card. You have to discard and then target a card on the field. So in order for you to target, you must also discard. Something like Dynamiscus, it reads, when you activate it, it says target one face-up card on the field, semicolon. So your activation requirement for this particular card is simply the target. So we see a lot of, and then its effect is to discard one card, and if you do, banish the target.
Yeah. So the thing you're trying to point out is that cost may be identical between cards in terms of the resolution of the card. Both cards require you to target and discard to resolve the effect. But the key thing is in what sequence they ask you to do them and when they are before and after the colon. Yeah.
Really the colon. Just like a proctologist, look out for the colon. That's all I've got to say. I think that's your best bet for costs.
And when cards don't have a colon, then you assume there is no cost involved. Like there is no cost to activate skilled. Well, there is a cost to activate skill drain. Bad example. And there's no cost to activate summon limit.
Yes.
You activate it, and it is on the field.
Whatever the effect.
So not every card has a cost, and that confuses some people when a card, for example, Pot of Greed, just says draw 2 cards. Everyone goes, is that cost? And it's like, well, no, it just has an invisible cost of nothing.
Yeah. Activating the card is your cost.
Yes, exactly.
For spell traps specifically, often.
And as always, personal resources that you can use as a player, refer to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card database that's available at yu-gi-oh-card.com, as well as Neuron, because they generally provide you with the most up-to-date card texts.
Yeah.
Obviously, another discussion that can probably be tied into rulings is something known as a problem-solving card text. This was something that we've discussed, fun enough, previously, because Lucas recently purchased a set of secret rare Ash Blossoms. And they notably have the clause during either player's turn
instead of a quick play.
As opposed to in bracket quick effect. So that's a classic example of problem solving card test. So just make sure that you have the most current version of the card available. And if it's not the most max rarity, if you do own the max rarity version, make sure you have a copy of the current wording available so that you and your opponent are able to understand the card in its entirety.
If you want a soft cheat, just play the old version of Rescue Cat.
So I've got 3 questions here from Renton, and they're all quite fast to answer. So we'll go with these.
Okay, a little rapid fire round.
Rapid fire round before we get to our emails.
How many green spikes does Niwatori have on its head?
Sorry?
5.
Correct.
3. What?
Whoever said 5 was correct.
Ruby's
Oh,
right.
Me,
Damn.
Queen.
There
Yeah,
we
sorry,
go.
what?
Niwatori. I don't know.
It's
is that
a
the
normal
chicken?
level 3 monster that like looks like it's eaten a bit too much.
Yeah, that's the chicken. The full
chicken
Yeah,
chicken.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
It does
Niwatori.
have
There we
5
go.
spikes. All right, that's a good
5
one.
spikes. There we go.
Alright.
The next
What's
one.
the next one?
Oh, this one might take a little bit of time. I'm going to say 1 card. So he asked for 3 cards. But if you could, what card would you like to be reprinted in Ulti or Ghost?
This is a really good question. Do you have any immediate thoughts, anyone?
Mine's-
I'd like if you want to
mine's
get
Ash
a
Blossom.
rolling.
Ash
Okay,
Blossom.
that's good. Which
Easy.
one? Ulti or Ghost?
Ulti. Just to go with the other.
Yeah. That's
You
probably
know,
gonna happen.
Yeah, well, the
Yeah.
Japanese have it in Ultimate Rare, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Lucas, do you have a card that you would like to?
Ghost Stratos. No, don't do that to myself. I'm a big fan of the Ghost Rare, and I
Mhm.
think Ghost Rares are particularly like I don't like how they've been treating them lately, where they've just been kind of throwing Ghost Rares on just like random cards like BLS and stuff like that. But I do think like a Zeus would look really nice in Ghost. I guess it already has a Starlight.
Yeah.
It's tough because most of the cards that I want to get blinged do.
XZ's Ghosts are cool. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and like the one that I would love, like, you know, the classic hero player complains about Cross Crusader being a rare, but like, come on, it's the only non-foil card in the deck. Like, I would love Cross Crusader to be just a super, honestly. But
Yeah.
a Ghost or an Ulti would be awesome.
Yeah. For me, I'd probably do an Ultimate Rare Parklefort Towers. That card was only a rare.
That's a good one.
That
It would
card
look
never
cool.
got printed at higher. It was only a rare.
I kind of mess with that.
So I would love to see Apocryphal Towers get a higher rarity printing. I think my other choice is Alucard, but it's got a really pretty ultimate rare, so I'm a huge
Yeah, when a
I'd like
card
to
already
see.
has an ulti, it's hard
Yeah.
to argue for a Ghost.
Yeah.
And the final question from Renton is, what is your favorite card of all time?
That is a big one. Joe, do you have an answer?
It's hard because I've got 2.
I think I could comfortably. For me, memory and something that I've really started to enjoy more is a double Saber Boggart Knight. I think for me, the Shining Darkness is a lot of nostalgia for me. And double Saber as a playable is incredible. It was mandatory once it came out for the X Saber strategy. And it's also like bulked up Force Raider, which is a cool storyline. So for me, I would go double Saber Boggart Knight.
All right, I've got
Lucas,
like
you got
2 answers, which is kind of cheating.
Yeah, I'm
So
going to do the same.
I stuck to the brief.
Because I have an answer for like a card I love playing with and a card that I just love like the art and like the surrounding emotional quality to it. So my favorite card to play with, and I think Ruben knows this, is Constellar Ptolemy M7. I love this card. It just does everything I want a card to do. It can be used to accrue value. It can be used to remove threats. It's just a big idiot on the field you can use to hit things. It can interrupt your opponent's graveyard. Like, the fact that its effect is just so universally applicable is awesome. I really, really like that card. It's a shame it's like a little bit slow nowadays. Like, it's not a quick effect. But even in Virtual World, like, this is the card that I think won me like some of the toughest games. Because it's just, you know, getting back an Ash Blossom at a critical moment or removing a threat is so awesome. My favorite card, like for nostalgia reasons, would be Elemental Hero Thunder Giant.
Yeah,
because
That's a great one.
I pulled it back in the day. I remember I went to an Armageddon tournament and I had all these fake cards in my deck, and I had a meltdown because the judge came over like in round 3 and was like, "You can't play these. Like,
Yeah.
there is no Elemental Hero, Spark Jockey. It's like, that's not a card." And I obviously, like, as a 9-year-old kid, I had a bit like of a meltdown. And my parents were there and they're like, "All right, let's just buy this kid some packs and we'll rebuild the deck from what we can." And Lost Millennium was like the set that was out at the time, and I loved Heroes. So I ended up, I played like an Elemental Hero jam everything deck for the rest of that event and lost every game. But I remember one of my only good plays was I could fusion into Thunder Giant because I pulled a super. And I just have like warm memories of that card. I also really love the card Wing Weaver because it was the strongest monster I had back when I played with like my cousins when I was a really little kid. And I just think that card's art is sick. So I answered 3, so that's a cheat.
Yeah, I've got 2, which I'll go along the same lines. Where my favorite one to play back in the day, and I don't know why, it was probably just because it was the time I got most into my Yu-Gi-Oh. Was Lavarval Chain. I really like that card.
Good choice.
But my favorite nostalgic card would be Razor the Storm Monarch, just because I remember pulling the Ultimate Rare one when I was a kid, and it was like the first like expensive card I ever pulled. And for some reason, I just really like its artwork as well. So
It's a good
Yeah.
card. I mean, it's a really strong card too.
it is, and I mean, I'm happy now because I get to play the Mega Razor. So yeah,
I mean, like regular Razor would be playable, I think, in Flunder easily.
I think
Yeah,
it will.
Mega
Yeah.
Razor is too,
Legit.
which is lovely. All right, so you've got a question here from, is it Thomas Bailey
Yeah, so our next writer, Thomas Bailey, writes here.
from Team? Oh, you want to read the question?
Yeah. To the resolution of Book of Eclipse, what are your thoughts on the previous change of Nationals champs being converted to North and South Island champs? So this is a New Zealand-focused question,
Yeah.
but you could apply it to your own region. Without Oceania, the current events feel a lot more like big fish in a small pond, as less players have felt inclined to travel. But the two events have made high play more accessible and a bigger combined player base with open entries. So, more people can play. Missing big events, Thomas of Team Mystic Hours. And then there's a bonus question. What's your favorite spicy tech card strategy you've taken to an event? Mine was playing Mech Knight Invoked, with my side deck being a Trickstar core I'd masquerade into when I knew I was going first.
That's a great question. Okay. I mean,
thoughts on Nationals being changed into North and South Island champs?
I can kind of speak on this. I work in part of the event organization. I think obviously you have the Oceanics background, which is something that, Lucas and I yet to have.
Yeah, we've never seen
So
these,
we've never seen Oceanics. We've seen North and South Island. So I think personally, I agree with honestly both statements. The big fish, small pond. We know the competitive players are just going to turn up and dominate those regional or like quote unquote like island based events.
I want to ask Joe: was national champs was Australia and New Zealand?
Oceania. Oceania champs.
is. Yeah, so Nationals.
So you had to travel to Australia.
For
Sometimes.
Oceania, I played Brisbane OC,
Yeah.
which was 2016, I believe.
So it was higher end than what we have now. Maybe.
It is, but I agree with Thomas in a way where I really liked Nationals, and the splitting of it does like kind of put a little bit of a rift, down the middle between North and South Island. I know, there'll be reasons of why it happened. I hope in the future to see a national size event going on again, because there is something really special about people from the South Island coming up to the North Island. People from all over the North Island all traveling to the one event, and like you meet these people you see on the Facebook page all the time, like people you trade with, people you talk to, with over, and I feel like Nationals are very special, and I hope we get them again. Like I don't know how long in the future they're going to be around, but
Ruben.
yeah, I feel like North and South have their. Don't get me wrong, it has its merits, and it was kind of like but I wish. To be honest, it was all free. So like you had the North Islands, the South Islands, and then like the overall massive event of Nationals, like almost like, and then you got the best, and you can like kind of pitch yourself like you'd be like, right, I won the South Island champs. Now I want to move on and be the South Island, the whole of New Zealand like national champion as such. Like so you can like try to like, but I agree. Like it does put a bit of a rift down the middle, and I've always preferred Nationals, but I'm not going to complain. I just want big scale Yu-Gi-Oh back in any
events. We'll take a freaking regional at this point.
Event.
Does anyone have a spicy tech or strategy they've taken to an event that they are particularly proud of?
Spoken about it before.
Absolutely. I believe I also have spoken. Yeah, you've tried. Yeah, Booby Trap E for Vanities was something that Joe did. Mine was definitely 3 tactics with a Zeus in the extra deck and no XZs.
Yeah.
So I would just take Zeus. I would take XZs. You?
I was just like going to ask Joe, have you ever like just sided into a different deck like Thomas here?
I've done I think back in the BA, like you could side in like a whole Shadow engine, and like you could do like things like that. But like, I mean, it works to a point until like you realize you actually need some other side deck cards, and then like you're like, oh damn,
Also, it kind of loses its flavor. Like if you start going against the people that you've done that strategy on, and it starts traveling in the room, everyone's like, okay, well this person bolts into the strategy. Like it loses its zest.
I think aside from like 3-obs that you play just because you think they're neat, I've never done this because I generally get it out of my system like in testing. Like I think playing
it's cool,
playing Infernoble and Adamancipator, I played every version, like the go rank 4 version. I played like the rank 8 turbo. Like there's lots of different little things you could do, and then in the end I usually settle on what I like the most, which is just like a deck that contains a good amount of spice as is that I don't need to side into. I think my favorite moments have been resolving Waking the Dragons, have been the one time that I decided to kind of just play like a bunch of trap cards in Mech Knights, like Artifact Sanctum, and just like throwing people off of what you expect. I've definitely been guilty of like faking people out on going first, in going second decks and stuff like that, but generally don't like side into a different strategy. I love the idea of playing Trickstar in Mech Knights as like your side.
Yeah.
And it's always fun when you see those decks top and you're just like, this asshole.
Yeah.
So next question. Who else have we got here?
I've got one. So I've got Marshall's.
We've got time for I think a couple more
Yeah,
questions.
we've got time for a couple more. So I've got Marshall's question. Obviously, the infamous write-in for Joe.
Yeah. Marshall, you can't get mad at us. We called Phantom Knight the best deck.
Yeah. So love you, Marshall. So his question is super simple, and I think it's got really fun answers from all of us. He simply asked, "What is the past format you've heard about that you wish you had played in?"
I missed out on the Fire Fist hat kind of era, like just before Duelist Alliance, and I kind of regret like missing it. Like it wasn't because I didn't miss it on purpose. It wasn't like I quit during that format or anything like that. It was just I'd quit like 4 years in the past, and then like I that was my longest break of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was it? And then I came back in Duelist Alliance, like I said. But I heard about the Hat Bujin format, and I was like, it sounded pretty cool. Like and that's one I would personally wanted to have a bit of a go in.
Do you have one, Lucas?
It's got to be Tengu Plants. I've been really pilled on Tengu Plants from Thomas and Aaron, some of our good friends. The way they talk about that format, it was just like this insanely skill-focused, value-based format that like everyone liked playing. And having played some of the old decks that have been built from that era, like, I can just play that format forever.
Yeah, I mean,
I love Tengu Plants.
Great friend Thomas, the Tengu Plant deck that we've got is sitting gorgeous. For me, Gumblar Hand Loop? No, just kidding.
Sick. Yeah.
I think I personally, I would have liked to be around for, I would say X-Sabers. I think X-Saber versing like kind of what was kind of like the weird like beginning iterations of Tengu Plant or Plant Synchro featuring Frog FTK. I feel like X-Sabers was like kind of an evolution for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they made Blackwings, but like with a lot of attack, kind of. Like, I'm not that Blackwings weren't crazy.
I'm sad neither one of you went with Duelist Alliance, by the way. But we'll carry on.
But we play these things going forward.
Yeah,
the thing is, I've enjoyed them. I've
played Shadows, buddy.
The thing is, I also think like X-Saber format when it was popular, I would have been 10 years old. Yeah. Like, there's no way I could have afforded it. Like, okay, Duelist Alliance was 2014. I would have been 14 years old. I would have had the chance.
Duelist Alliance, those decks are still good, and
they're still around.
Like a different kind of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like BA still feels the same.
It was the evolution into modern Yu-Gi-Oh. What it is now. Like, it was the first set that kind of pushed it forward. Yeah.
The early Synchro era is a kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! That just never really existed. It's this very value-based, grindy, back and forth, almost entirely telegraphed format where like you knew everything your opponent had in hand and on field, and had to just like manipulate the field and like draw cards when you can and hold back. You know, you don't want to settle your cards to play around Heavy Storm and things like that. Like there's just decision making that you don't make anymore. In that format, that I think is why it's so appealing to players like me and Ruben who have only started playing recently and never got to play that version of Yu-Gi-Oh.
The older stuff, I think we had a question from Oliver, which was already this. I think the same question of what Alistair asked around the favorite cards.
Yeah, our favorite cards.
If you want to read,
we'll get to other questions. Oh, I was just thinking we could go back to your the last question we wanted to do about falling out of favor with Yu-Gi-Oh. We'll get to the other ones another time. If you wrote in and we didn't get to your question, we'll get to
We'll do it next one. Yeah, 100%.
We can only talk for so long.
I'll put a bit of a disclaimer before I go into this question that the answer to it might go a bit deep. But I'm happy to answer it and I'm comfortable talking about it. So Phil, who's a new player at Hobby League, asked me, how do I find the motivation to still play after 10 plus years? Like the cost of cards, the ever-changing rules, players lack of. What motivates you to go through those and continue playing the game that you love? And for me, it's been hugely down to the community.
I would agree.
And if you're unaware, for the listeners out there, earlier in the year, me and my wife, we lost our son. And it was quite a special thing for me afterwards with the Yu-Gi-Oh community, how they banded around me. So I had friends that put a post up on the Facebook page essentially and said, hey, this has happened to Joe. Can you guys help out? And the community raised over $2,500 for me. And there was people that I'd never met before, never spoken to, would like given me money to like give me some time off and help in my time of grief. And that was huge for me. And it's kind of what's given me the drive to do what I'm doing now with like building my community in Palmy. It gave me the idea around June time with Greg from Dunedin to run the Sands charity event, which we made another $2,500 for the charity that helped me through that time. And it was just so nice for me personally, like going through a tough time. Yu-Gi-Oh gave me something else to focus on, and helped me through my grieving process. And I'm like forever thankful for the whole entire Yu-Gi-Oh community in New Zealand for what they've done for me. So,
I mean, that exact event is where we met.
Yes.
That is exactly the amazing event held by Dice Jar Games that we were able to commentate over with the multi-format tournament, was where actually Lucas and I met Joe. Obviously, the infamous Allure of Darkness into Shadow Fusion still resonates with me to this day. And I think that, Lucas and I acknowledge that, especially in such a really trying time for communities in general, in terms of obviously the pando going on, being unable to be around people and enjoy a hobby that you are passionate about is very demotivating. I went through a lull. It was so hard. And Lucas, I don't want to speak for you, but I think you also went through a bit of a lull.
I want to thank Joe for sharing that story, because obviously not everyone knows about it, and it takes a lot of courage to say that on the
recorded medium,
I guess. But it's important because when we're all apart, it definitely reinforces why we gather these communities. Because a lot of us, have sort of found a family, or found, maybe after like high school, you lose touch with your friends, you find new people in these kinds of hobbies that, you quickly spend a lot of time with and develop real bonds with. So, that's such an important reason to celebrate this game that we love to talk shit about. And I mean, even
ultimately,
it's the thing we picked, right? Like we just picked it as our thing.
It's our hobby.
It doesn't matter what it is,
but it's even small things like my Palmy community now has like grown into a thing where like we've added a second hobby league, which is a casual Thursday where we're just going to come in and play games, eat pizzas, have a good time. And after Hobby League on Saturday, we all went to KFC, and then we all just chilled at the park, and we all just like ate KFC while talking about Yu-Gi-Oh. It was just cool. Like, and I love
in adult.
I love it. That's awesome.
Super important. Like you so quickly can lose touch with like high school friends. They move away, and it's like, you need someone to keep going. And like you said, when you were going through tough times, there were people,
right there,
good people that like even that don't know you would just be like, yeah, of course I'll give to a fellow Yu-Gi-Oh player. Like we're all. We were all in it together, right? So that was And
I know Phil probably wasn't seeking an answer like that, but that like, is my answer.
I just save up my pocket money and buy a Baron.
But to be honest, and I'll give the other answer to it. And I know it's it's small compared to my first answer, but like I really like where current Yu-Gi-Oh is at, and it's such a diverse format, and it's fun. So like that and I think Konami has almost responded to the pandemic a little bit as well with the way that they've moved forward with things that they're printing. We haven't seen a tier 0 format in a long time,
I think the secret as well is to take breaks.
Yes,
absolutely.
Like if you feel burnt out, like
don't force a bad thing, because you'll just live to loathe it.
If you're looking at Baron and Cross Out and DPE and going, I can't spend $600 on these cards, just take a year off. They'll be cheap later, and like you can come back in. If you don't want to take a year off, just take a couple weeks off. Like sometimes this can get quite intense, constantly testing and improving decks.
Or I think I know exactly what Joe was about to say. Enjoy old formats.
Yes.
Dig back up. Back up history.
I actually
past.
have been legit playing so much Tengu Plant.
Edison format is seeing a lot of traction. Past format, like you spoke about, these Duelist Alliance era decks are super accessible. And while yes, you may think as yourself as a player going, I don't want to sink money into cards that are worth nothing. Like that's just for something. But if it brings you joy, seek it out. Go.
There's a reason that Simo's like stopped doing meta reports and started doing progression. It's because most Yu-Gi-Oh players are sick of like constantly just being obsessed with meta, and there's no casual format. So old format seems like the perfect
medium.
Literally just go out and buy like 4 Edison decks for like $30 and then play them with your friends, and that is like such a good time.
Yeah. I think that pretty much wraps up that.
I think it does.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, amazing questions all around
thanks for everyone.
from the people who spoke to us in person, spoke to Joe, emailed us, let us know on our Facebook pages. And again, if you have questions, we want to be adding this to our podcast segments. Please feel free to contact us. You can leave comments on the posts that we make in the Yu-Gi-Oh!
What's
New
that?
Zealand
What's that
page.
email address again, Ruben?
Oh my god, I think it's thefacedowns@gmail.com. Or leave a comment below if you've got any questions that you think you really want us to answer.
Email's probably better than YouTube comments because I don't know, YouTube comments are weird, scary places.
They can be a wee bit strange. I wouldn't know. I just read comments going, wow, they really reacted that way.
If there's a good question in the comments, then we'll definitely get to it.
Absolutely. I'm yet to think of a quippy name, so I'll get back to that for the next episode.
We'll have a good. We'll expect you. That's homework, Ruben.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I love little quick portmanteaus, so I think this is definitely a fun thing to do. And I hope everyone has enjoyed listening along with us, talking about meta questions, tier lists, really innovating a strategy or something that's never been done before.
Yeah, if anyone wants to take this concept of the tier list, feel free. We're
please go ahead.
Copyright or anything.
No copyright, no nothing.
But you better like and subscribe, buddy.
Yes,
you better like the video and subscribe it and all that crap. So, as always, I'm Lucas.
I'm Ruben.
And I'm Joe.
And you've been listening to
The Face Downs. Remembered it.
First time.